King Cyrus's fatherhood. At noon, Robert high, like only he could. The fables are bizarre but good. It's Myth Understood.
Myth Understood, and grab your partner, turn around. Oopsie do. It's Mythtown.
You just took on this amazing face when that happened. Like all of a sudden you were possessed by, I don't know, like country line dancers.
Yeah, I know. I was.
You're back
I'm
now.
free.
I remember there was this episode of Looney Tunes where Bugs tricks these two hillbillies that are after him into country line dancing. And he's like, now poke each other's eye, and like they just like do everything he says, and he like makes them injure each other.
They were square dancing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't love that. It was horrible.
I was saying line dancing and I meant square dancing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Those are different shapes.
Yeah, they sure are. Hey, thanks for joining us for another episode of Myth Understood with me, Paul Bianchi, and her, Sarah Oliver. Bruh. We just returned from the city of Atlanta. And we had a really nice time. I fell off a scooter.
And but God, it seemed almost like, look what I can do, because he was in the lead of our friends, and out of nowhere, he starts swerving into the curb, looks back for a second. I swear we almost made eye contact, and then does a full somersault flip onto the sidewalk into the grass. And I was like, is he showing out?
I sure wasn't. I felt that our friend Melinda, who has actually done an episode of Myth Understood.
She sure has.
I thought that she was catching up with me too rapidly, and so I tried to move over quickly.
You heard the Wicked Witch of the West theme.
And so I had this fear that she was approaching me out of the corner of my eye, so I moved, and it was a very narrow bike lane that we were in at that moment. And so I looked back, and that was why I looked back. And then the scooters go 15 miles an hour. So I stepped off onto the curb at 15 miles an hour, which momentum led me to do a forward roll.
I just got to say, I'd love for you to do it again.
I would not like to do it again.
He scraped his hands up really bad, and right before we went out to dinner, and covered in blood. Yeah. But let's give a shout out to the kind people of Atlanta, because what happened to you moments after you destroyed your body?
Someone drove by through a puddle and sprayed my new pink law firm outfit. I immediately afterwards, people cheered from afar, which was not a like making fun of me cheer, but a cheer in support. I quickly learned, because one of the men ran up and showed me his scar on his elbow to say like, "Oh, these things are dangerous, man. I fell off this too." And then his friend, who had very long acrylic nails, held 3 packets of alcohol wipes out for me.
Yeah, it was like that's what they do. They patrol the scooter lanes looking for fools such as yourself.
Yeah, it was really nice. I think that was maybe my best impression of Atlanta right then in that moment.
Yeah. When I take a dive,
mm-hmm.
people will have medical supplies on the ready.
Yeah, you wiped out.
Can't say that about LA.
You wiped out as well, but not as.
I didn't fall.
Yeah,
I'm sturdier than you. I fell and kept running with my scooter, and then slammed it into my ankles really hard. So yeah, a little bit of blood.
Yeah, a little bit of blood.
Whatever.
So we were scootering around Atlanta because it's at least we were staying in East Atlanta, and it's a pretty easy town to scooter around in, unless you fall off your scooter.
Yeah. I've only scooted around LA one time, and a car tried to run our friend Robert off the road, so didn't have a great experience.
I mean, in their defense, you guys were going down the middle of the highway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right down the 405.
Right down in the wrong way too. We were looking to die.
Well, yeah. Well, it was really nice traveling with you, and we'll never do it again.
Never again.
Yeah.
But thank you, Atlanta, for your kind people. If you're listening,
The city.
the city.
Yeah, great.
If you're listening, we love you.
So I was going to talk to you today about a pharaoh.
Duh.
And not just any pharaoh, though. A lady pharaoh.
Good.
Yeah. This is Pharaoh Hatshepsut.
Hot shit.
Hatshepsut.
All right.
Or Hatshepsut, depending. I saw multiple pronunciations, so it's one of those names. But she was one of 3 notable female pharaohs in Egypt.
Not that there were definitely more than 3, but they were like kind of blah.
Sort of debated, honestly. No, because there was Cleopatra, who was
Coming at you.
a queen, and she was sort of seen by at least ancient Egyptians as being not a very good pharaoh because she
A little bit of narcissist.
just kind of led to what they felt Egypt's downfall.
Sure.
And then there was another pharaoh before Hatshepsut, and she just was not a lot of things were built in her honor or like a lot of claim. Her reign wasn't very long, so it's basically Hatshepsut is like the female pharaoh.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
she's the one to be.
Yeah, she's the preeminent one.
Okay.
And so I'm going to talk about her because this is, mythology podcast. She has mythology surrounding her birth.
Oh God. What egg
Because-
did she pop out of?
Yeah, well, because you know that she, as a pharaoh, you were a god in your own right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to bounce on the Drew Barrymore's heads in the duat.
Yeah, it's not like in like when we were talking
It's
about
like a cheat code.
what?
It's like a cheat code, right?
I don't know what you're talking about. What is like a cheat code?
Being a pharaoh.
I don't.
Like you get to skip a lot of levels of the duat, don't you?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
I thought you did. Or do you have to go through all of them?
No, you do, but you're on the
You're on the boat.
You're on the boat with
That's
the
a
gods.
cheat.
Yeah, sure.
That's a Sims Rosebud.
Yeah. A Sims Rosebud. Okay. You're pulling out all the references today.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for them. Yeah. But I was going to say it's not like in Roman Caesarship how like a lot of people who were high powered in Rome would say that they were descendants of Romulus and Remus.
Right.
This was like a direct correlation. Like, no, I am a god. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're saying they're the direct like daughter of Ra or something.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
gotcha.
So this is how this one began. This myth, and I can only imagine that this myth was written on her. Like I why did I say I can only imagine? It is written and depicted
On a tramp stamp.
on a tramp stamp. Just really popular one in Egypt. It's depicted on her tomb. So this is how we know what we know about Hatshepsut. And it begins with Amun-Ra, as all things do. He was sitting on his throne one day, and he was looking out upon all of Egypt. And
What a view.
yeah, it was a beautiful view.
Yeah.
In fact, he looked out and he saw the shapely curves of the dunes. And,
Oh God, he's gonna fuck the sand.
And he suddenly turns to his assembled council of gods, just like with a boner. And,
I knew it.
And he says, I don't. It doesn't say that he has a boner, but he says, but he's looking out and they're having a barbecue or something like on his back porch, and it's who do you think's there? Who's his acquired assembly of gods?
I feel like his eyes at the grill.
Uh-huh.
Isis is definitely there. She's setting up karaoke,
Uh-huh. Great. Yeah.
backyard karaoke. You got the hippo boys in the pool.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah. Well, so Tot and Khonsu and Khnemu are all there.
Yeah, I named them.
And Isis is there with Osiris. Nephthys, her duplicitous sister, is of course chilling out as well.
Jeez, she's like giving Osiris shots.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you finished that with shots. And and Horus is there, and Harmachis is there, and Anubis and Hathor.
Wow, this is
It's a big party.
this is the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Egyptian 4th of July.
And Amun-Ra takes his glass and he just like hits it with his fork. Well done, thank you. And he says, thank you all for being here today. I just had a thought while looking out the window over there. There have been many a pharaoh in the land of Kem, in the double land of Egypt. And some of them have been great and pleased me very well. Some of them, you know which ones they are.
Sounds like this is like a Trump rally.
They kind of sucked. But the good ones were Khufu and Khafra and Menkaura long ago, who raised the great pyramids of Giza. Amenhotep and Tutmos today have caused the peoples of the world to bow down at my feet. It is very much like a Trump rally, isn't
Yes.
it? Now is the dawning of the golden age of Egypt. We're going to make Egypt great again. And it comes into my mind to create a great queen who will rule over them. Yes, I will unite the two lands in peace for her. I will give her rule over the whole world, over Syria and Nubia, besides Egypt, and yes, even the far distant land of Punt.
Wow.
And that's what ISIS said.
Wow. I mean, if you're looking for a queen, look no further.
Yeah, and ISIS does respond next. She is described to have a silvery voice that sounds like shaken bells.
I want you to consider someone else.
She says, Father of gods and men, no queen has yet ruled in Egypt, in the holy land of Kem, save only one, when the good god Osiris, that's you, honey, had passed into the Duat, and the good god Horus, that's you, baby son, was still a child. And while Seth, the evil, terrible one, am I right, Nephthys, stalked up unchained up and down the land. Father of gods and men, if you create such a queen, my blessing and wisdom shall be upon her.
She literally just said, hey, wait a second, let me talk about my family.
Yeah.
So, okay, this is Ivanka Trump.
So then Tote spoke. He's a few beers deep.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, with a sipping out of his little ibis beak. And he's like, oh, Amun-Ra, Lord of the Two Lands, King of the gods, maker of men, hearken to my words. In the royal palace at Thebes, set the Black Land, the rich country where Kenmu has made fertile the dark mud of the floods. There dwells a maiden there, in that muddy, fertile land. What's her name? It's Amis. And none in the world is fairer than her, at least at the moment, nor more beautiful in their limbs. She's got some great arms and great legs.
Oh, yeah.
She is the new made bride of the good god Pharaoh Tutmos, who has now returned to Thebes after his conquests beyond the Great Green Sea in the lands of Syrians and the Epira. She alone can be the mother of the great queen whom you're about to create as ruler of the two lands. She rests alone in the palace of Pharaoh. Come on, let's all go. Let's all go.
The whole party's going to go?
Right
now.
now.
So now one of those party buses show up, with like the strobe lights inside and a stripper pole in the middle.
Mm-hmm. It's where y'all going?
We're going to make a little girl.
Excellent. Hop on in. So Tote took upon himself his favorite form, that of an ibis, like full-on ibis, no human body this time.
Cool.
And it says specifically, in this form, he could fly swiftly through the air, unrecognized by any, except if everyone knows that his favorite form is an ibis, people would recognize him.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the skies, he flew into the palace of Tutmos at Thebes, to the great chamber with its painted walls, where Queen Amis lay asleep.
Can you imagine if they don't notice it's him right away and you're just like, fucking bird flying in? It's a huge bird.
Yeah. So he gets ahead of the party bus, and he sprinkles
bird shit.
magical bird shit.
Yeah.
All over the palace.
Okay.
so that everyone in the entire palace fell asleep.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
And then only the pharaoh, King Tutmos himself, seemed to still be awake.
And he sprinkled some Viagra on him.
uh, but it seemed that only it was his body which didn't sleep.
Ah,
It was as
oh.
if he was already dead. His three spiritual parts, the Ba, his soul, the Ka, his like double, like his mind, basically.
He's
And
double mind.
yeah,
He's a pharaoh.
and the cow, his spirit, all left his body and like floated around the room.
Oh,
And
I've been that high.
he took some edibles, and then he was left there to lie, like his body remained there lying asleep, but then his like
Fully erect.
yes,
I feel like that's where this is going.
mhm. And so then the party bus arrives. All of the gods were like, "Oh my god, this is such a great idea! Oh my god, is everyone really asleep right now? Oh, Tote did such a great job! I can't believe it. Hathor, did you bring the dip?"
Look at that floating spirits.
Yeah, and they do look up at the they do look up at the spirits, and they see that the Ba looks like a bird with a human head.
Oh, cool.
Um, the cow was just a tongue and fire.
What?
Hover and that was hovering up in the ceiling
Is
as
that
well.
like the Rolling Stones
Yeah,
album? Okay.
it's very punk rock.
All right.
And Amun-Ra walks up and sees the sleeping body of the pharaoh, or the still body of the pharaoh, and he basically he's like, "Guys, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be the pharaoh for a moment."
Oh, boy.
So he slips into his body, and as soon as he steps into his body, like it's like whatever Tutmos was wearing was not good enough for Amun-Ra. It all melts away. All of his
Ah.
clothes melt away and are replaced with a glittering collar of precious stones, bracelets of pure gold, and electrum. Do you know electrum?
No.
Electrum is the natural fusion of gold and silver that you can just like dig up and pull out of the earth.
Cute.
Yeah, I had to look that up too.
Wow.
And so he's just covered in jewels, but naked. And he has on his head 2 plumes of feathers, because that's like Amun-Ra's thing.
All right.
Yeah. And it seemed like light shined through his skin. For as he rose and passed through the palace, you could see him like glowing through like pillars and like from chamber to chamber. He's just filling this otherwise dark space. I see that very cinematically. I think
Yeah,
it's very
I can
pretty.
see it too.
Just like the erect penis leading the way.
Yes, that's a
Mhm.
flashlight.
And meanwhile, like all the gods just like like behind him, like as he passed and faded, there lingered behind him a scent of the richest perfumes come from the land of Punt. So that's the part that ruins it for me. He's just like leaving this cloud of like
Yeah, I see
too
like a
strong
stink,
cologne.
a stink cloud behind him.
Yeah. And he reaches the sleeping place of Queen Amas,
No, why is she sleeping?
because Tote put a sleeping spell on everyone in the
okay.
palace. And the double doors of ebony bound with silver open before him and then close when he's passed. Like very what is that? Magneto.
Yeah.
Um
Barry White starts playing.
uh-huh. Exactly. Yeah, there's the sexiest music that's ever been plays. And they say he found the queen lying like a jewel on a golden couch that was shaped like a lion.
The fuck is that imagery?
Well, if Barry White's playing, it seems appropriate
Sure.
imagery. He seated himself upon the couch, and then he held to her nostrils Amun-Ra's divine symbol of life, and passed the breath of life to her as she breathed. So she awoke, and that's a very interesting, like, kind of like druggy sort of idea to me. Yeah, like a popper or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and as she awakened, she found that the couch began to rise
And vibrate.
and vibrate and float up into the air.
Oh, that's not a scary thing to wake up to.
Uh-huh. Then it seemed Queen Ames, she couldn't tell if she was dreaming or if she was awake, and she saw that she was bathed in light, so she couldn't see anything above or below or around her, but just like this whirling golden mist, save only the form of her husband, the Pharaoh Tutmos, who spoke in a voice that seemed to echo away into the distance.
Oh.
And he said, "Rejoice, most fortunate of women, for you shall bear a daughter who will claim to be, who shall be, who don't just claim to be, will be the child of Amun-Ra, who shall reign over the two lands of Egypt and be sovereign of the whole world." So,
This is just a lot to take in right now. I just woke up. Can I have some coffee?
I'll give you a lot to take in.
Oh.
And yeah, so then Queen Ames sank back into a deep and dreamless sleep.
No.
Uh,
Why didn't he want her awake for this?
I think that's the fade to black, because there is no specific sex. It's just like he announces it, then the sex is over.
Oh.
We can fill in the blank
Okay.
of what.
As long as it happened in between the sleep.
Yeah. Then the form of Tutmos was hastened back to where his ba and cow were hovering above the bed, just like that bird and the flaming tongue, just being
Yeah.
like
Grooming each other.
yeah. And a moment later, Tutmos lay as if he were sleeping, as if nothing happened, while the ba and the ka and the cow faded from mortal sight. But Amun-Ra, father of the gods and men, summoned him to Knemu, the fashioner, the fashioner of human life, and he said to Knemu, "Mold clay upon your wheel, potter who forms the body of mankind, and make my daughter Hatshepsut, who shall be born to Ames and Tutmos in the royal palace at Thebes." So, after the sex, time to make a baby out of clay.
Oh, so you didn't really need to have sex with her?
No, that was just part of it.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's for fun.
Yeah, he wanted Ames to have like a vague memory of being fucked by the king of the gods.
Sure.
Yeah.
So does the husband know though?
Probably not.
Oh.
No.
Oh.
You know how these go.
Yeah.
And when came time for Hatshepsut to be born, amid the rejoicing of all Egypt, she lay in her cradle beside the royal bed in a great room lit only by moonlight. Then once again, in the silence of deep sleep that fell, this was all an idea at a party one day.
Yeah, really.
A deep sleep fell
It's
upon
just a drug house.
the palace of Thebes, and presently the double doors opened of themselves, like they always do.
I think this is an automatic door. I think this is like a grocery store at this
Uh-huh.
point.
Amun-Ra entered in his own likeness, attended by Hathor, the goddess of love, and her 7 daughters, who were known as the Hathors.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. They were like a singing group.
Do up. Hey baby, that's not your real dad. This guy is. He fucked your mom.
Yeah. That's the 7th daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. Just the baritone.
Oh boy, I imagine them like I've been watching Schitt's Creek finally, and they're the Jazzy Girls.
Mm-hmm.
So the Hathor, goddess of love, and her 7 daughters, the Hathor, they weave the web of life for all who are born on this earth. So they're sort of like the 3 fates in Greek mythology.
Except 7.
There's 7 of them.
That's
Yeah.
fair. I want more people involved in my fate.
That's great. Yeah.
I'd like a group vote.
Well, yeah, because there's more to life than just beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, I hope so.
Then Amun-Ra blessed the baby Hatshepsut. He took her up in his arms and gave her
A raspberry.
the kiss of power, which could be a raspberry,
I know it is.
so that she might indeed become a great queen, as his daughter should. And the Hathors wove the golden web of life as Amun-Ra directed, and as they wove it, Queen Amis woke up and saw this happening to her daughter.
Did she even know she had a baby? Is this the first time she's woken up?
That'd be the most restful pregnancy.
Oh, yeah.
And she saw her daughter's life laid out before her.
Oh, so it's like a quilt you can read?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
She saw Hatshepsut as a beautiful girl kneeling in the temple at Karnak in eastern Thebes, while Amun-Ra and Horus poured the waters of purification upon her head, while the other gods and goddesses gathered in the shadows between the great columns to bless her. Then she saw Tote puking from just being really drunk from the party.
Also onto her feet.
Then, yeah, it's a blessing.
Yeah.
Then she saw Hatshepsut beside her human father, Pharaoh Thutmose, journeying through all the land of Egypt, from Tanis on the delta to Elephantine in the south.
Learning how to throw a ball.
Mm-hmm. Hailed by all as the great queen to be. She saw Hatshepsut being crowned as Pharaoh of Egypt, the only woman ever to wear the double crown, save for Cleopatra the Greek, who was to bring about Egypt's fall 1,500 years later. Then, so hot burn on Cleopatra in this.
The Greek.
Mm-hmm. Then, yeah, that's how they call her.
Yeah.
Then she saw her seated in state while kings of the earth bowed down before her, bringing her gifts from ends of the earth. She saw Hatshepsut's expedition to the distant Punt, where the ships sailed out into the Red Sea and far upon the waters of the ocean to reach the coasts of Central Africa. And she saw the beehive huts from the dwellers in Punt, who built on piles in the water and overshadowed by palms and incense trees with ladders leading up to the entrances. So she saw all that. And the reason that that's so expressive is that's what's literally like written in hieroglyphics on the wall of the tomb. So
This is a big tomb so far.
it's huge.
Oh, damn.
And then she saw the expedition returning to Egypt and bringing all the treasures of Punt back to Pharaoh Hatshepsut, and how she dedicated them to her father, Amun-Ra.
Ooh.
And Horus weighing the gold on his scales, and Tote writing down the measures of incense, and the good god Hatshepsut herself offering the best of all she had before the ceremonial boat of Amun-Ra, which carried the priests of Thebes. Last, she saw the masons and the carvers and the artists fashioning the great mortuary of Hatshepsut, cutting out and painting the walls, all the pictures that she had seen in the web of fate that the Hathors were weaving before her on this night of Hatshepsut's birth. So that's what you can see in the mortuary temple of Hatshepsut, is everything that we just described right here.
Wow.
All these things were fulfilled, even as Queen Amis has seen, and Egypt reached its greatest glory under Hatshepsut and under her nephew Thutmose III, who succeeded her. And
she didn't pop out any kiddos?
She did. So this is how this myth ends, and then I'm going to talk about the actual woman.
Oh.
So all of this is told in pictures and hieroglyphs at Deir el-Bahri, the mortuary temple of Hatshepsut in western Thebes, which is today across the river from the city of Luxor.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it's cool looking. I'll post a picture of it. It looks almost like it's built into the side of a mesa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the myth. And you can imagine that, like, for a woman to rule, which was fairly
super
rare,
unusual, yeah.
Yeah, that, like, to have this big gaudy story about like how she becomes pharaoh is to like help build up her legacy and keep people from, saying that she shouldn't rule.
Right.
So this is kind of how it actually happened. Hatshepsut attained unprecedented power for a woman, adopting the full titles and regalia of a pharaoh. She reigned from about 1479 to 1458 BC.
Oh.
So not
almost 20 years.
Yeah. She was the elder daughter of the 18th dynasty king Thutmose I and his consort Ahmose, who was less a queen and more of a consort queen.
Yeah.
And she was married to her half brother Thutmose II, who was the son of the lady Mutnefret. And since 3 of Mutnefret's older sons had died prematurely, Thutmose II inherited his father's throne in about 1492 BC. And Hatshepsut was his consort. Together, they, half brother though.
Yeah.
They bore one daughter, Neferer,
Mm-mm.
but no son. And then Thutmose II died, and the throne was passed to his son, Thutmose III, who was born to like a lesser harem queen.
Oh, shit.
So when Thutmose III was an infant, Hatshepsut acted as the regent for the young king. And in the first few years of her stepson's reign, Hatshepsut was entirely conventionally like a regent, but by the end of his 7th year, she was crowned pharaoh and adopted a full royal title. And
What? They didn't think he could do it at 7?
yeah,
Wow.
and well, it was sort of seen that they were co-rulers of Egypt, but she was the dominant king between the two of them.
Cool.
And she, up until this point, she was depicted as a typical queen with a female body and appropriate female garments. But after an experimentation period that involved combining a female body with kingly regalia, her formal portraits began to show Hatshepsut with a male body, wearing traditional regalia of a kilt, a crown or headcloth, and a false beard.
Whoa. All right.
Which is like, I think I talked about this before, that like women who were seen as being like beloved by the gods, like on their tomb would have like the little like goatee beard that like the men would have as
All
well.
right.
And this was very intentional by Hatshepsut to like, hey, portray me this way so that the entire people of Egypt see me as a pharaoh and not just the regent queen.
Wow.
So for the first, that's the next paragraph. So she never explained why she took the throne or how she persuaded Egypt's elite to accept her new position. However, an essential element of her success was a group of loyal officials, many handpicked, who controlled all of the key positions in her government.
We got a little Game of Thrones strategy going on here. Yeah.
The most prominent among these was a man named Senenmut, who was the overseer of all royal works and the tutor to her daughter. Some historians have suggested that Hatshepsut and Senenmut might have been lovers. And since he was like overseer of the arts and the way she was portrayed, like he was very dedicated to make her appear worthy of the title of pharaoh. So he was, if he wasn't in love with her, he was just incredibly devoted to her.
Right.
Hatshepsut, her reign was mostly a peaceful one. Her foreign policy was based on trade rather than war. So that's part of why she was seen as a good pharaoh.
Yes, for some reason that seems a little better.
Yeah. And there is a scene on her walls at her temple that suggests that she began a short, successful military campaign in Nubia. So she quelled one uprising or war or whatever. And more complete scenes show how Hatshepsut's seaborne trading expedition resulted in an influx of gold, ebony, animal skins, baboons, myrrh.
Gotta get those.
And myrrh trees were brought back to Egypt. And it was like the first time myrrh was planted in Egypt during her reign. So she had that legacy. And then towards the end of her reign, Hatshepsut allowed Thutmose to play an increasingly more prominent role in state affairs because she wanted a seamless succession of power. And this is where you're going to be mad, because following her death, Thutmose III ruled Egypt alone for 33 years. And at the end of his reign, an attempt was made to remove all traces of Hatshepsut's rule. Her statues were torn down.
Wow.
Her monuments were defaced, and her name was removed from the official list of kings.
Damn.
And early scholars interpreted this as an act of vengeance, but it was thought that what he really did, because it seemed like he had a good relationship with his mother, or his stepmother, that in order to strengthen his lineage moving forward, it was better to show that Tutmos I went to Tutmos II and then Tutmos III without female interruption.
Yeah,
in any
because
way.
you can just make everyone forget that she existed.
I guess so. Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, and because of all this though, like this wasn't really figured out until 1822, and because there was so much like imagery of her as a man, and there was like her name had sort of been erased, and
Oh, okay.
so they finally.
So maybe it was actually the nephew that went around to bus stops, like drawing little beards on her posters, you know?
Maybe, yeah. But yeah, today the Tutmos succession is very well understood, and
Wow.
we know Hatshepsut's place in history. So that's her. That's the actual woman, and that's the ridiculous myth.
Ridiculous. I feel it kind of checks out, man.
What I think is interesting is that, you know, it's written about her, and it's like, here's this sort of weird explicit scene involving my parents having sex, but you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, what? My dad's running around wearing nothing but jewelry.
Yeah.
It's just like that scene in Titanic, but reversed. I love it.
Yeah, floating lion couch in golden mist.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, he did it with I was made with style, and that's why I am the king of style. That's why I have this great goatee. I'm going to go to my next job interview with a goatee on.
I think you would be taken interestingly. I was about to say more seriously, and I was like, no, I just imagined you playing with it.
Oh, that's if I had a handlebar mustache, which, you know, eventually I'll get there. I'll work up.
Yeah, I mean, you've already tied a lot of women to railroad tracks. So.
Of course. Who's that guy's name?
Snidely Whiplash.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's my alter ego. Fiance has Sasha Fierce. Sasha Fierce? Why? Sasha Fierce. And I have Snidely what's his name?
Snidely Whiplash.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think about Hatshepsut?
She seems really she seems legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked her. I liked her story. Except the part where everyone's getting body snatched, sleeping.
I mean, that's fine though. There's some magical.
Yeah.
No one's annoyed about it in the story.
It doesn't seem like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like if all the components of my soul left my body, like I feel like I'd get a good rim, like for once, you know?
Oh. I did not take that way.
Oh, a good rimming.
Yeah.
Well, that was the wife, but the I think the husband had a good rim cycle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great. Good.
Rim jobs. That's how babies are made, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And the CDC has said they can come back.
Rim jobs or babies?
Rim jobs, which obviously lead to babies.
Oh, okay.
Ooh. Yeah.
You love them.
Ooh.
The timeless songs for
Wow.
having sex with a god.
Boom. Chicka pow pow.
Hi, I'm Terry. And boy, do I have the most amazing compilation album for you. It's songs for getting fucked by a god.
I want you wearing nothing but a golden cock ring. I want you wearing a bunch of jewelry and nothing else.
Yes, that's Golden Cock Ring by Tina What's Her Name. And of course, who could forget the most amazing song, Stinky Cloud of Perfume.
Stinky cloud of perfume coming my way. What does it mean? Well, I'm gonna get laid.
And who could forget this amazing song by the Flaming Tongues. Oh, that was perfect. Thank you. Well, Sarah, thanks for listening to the story of Hatshepsut.
I enjoyed it. I actually liked it.
Good.
I like all of Egyptian mythology.
Yeah.
Having a good time with it. Yeah.
Yeah. It takes itself very seriously sometimes, and other times it's very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you,
Yeah. That's accurate.
covered in blood.
Mm-hmm. Well, take us out.
Oh, guys, thank you so much for listening today. As always, you can follow us on social media. We are on Instagram and Twitter at _MythUnderstood. You can follow us personally at the Paul Bianchi and at the Sarah Oliver on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to show off just what a misfit you are, grab some merch from our website, or you can become a patron at Patreon.
Become a Patreon.
You can become a Patreon. Also, if you want to chat directly with us, you can join our Discord community. And everything I've just mentioned can be found at www.mythunderstoodpodcast.com. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. If you give us a nice shout out, it helps other people find us.
If you give us a mean one,
It will
helps.
find you.
It helps Apophis in the duat.
It does. We love you all, and I hope you're staying safe and enjoying this springish time.
It is springish.
Yeah.
Night-night.
Night.
Internet! I'm Coy Jandro, a Bostonian who loves pop culture, comic books, and people. And I host Coycast. It's a podcast about all those things. If it fits in on a con floor, we talk about it on Coycast. Myself and producer Jake do previews, reviews, deep dives, and tinfoil hat theories about everything from movies, TV, and the comic books themselves. I also like to dish out comic recommendations from my 100-plus pull list a week so you know what's best to buy. So join us, True Believer, on Coycast.com or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now.
Dragon Wagon.